Hi, this is Jessie. Thanks for watching. Today I'm going to be reviewing The Witch's Orchard by Archer Sullivan, and thanks to NetGalley for providing a digital review copy. This is expected to be published on August 12th, so be looking forward to that. Now, this is one of those Appalachian books. I've seemed to have been drawn to these books over the last couple of years. There's a lot of books that I've reviewed that kind of touch on magic and Appalachia. This one was a little bit different. This one was mystery of sorts. So you have Annie, she was in the military, and she found that she is good at finding things. And so she's become kind of a private investigator. And a man contacts her and says, "My sister's been missing for 10 years. Here's all my money. And can you go find my sister?" So she goes to this small Appalachian town, and she's actually from a different Appalachian town. And so it's kind of homecoming for her, almost going back to her Appalachian roots. And she starts kind of pushing buttons, asking questions of the townsfolk about what happened 10 years ago. And she thought that maybe it was going to be a situation where either people don't remember, they didn't have anything else to add. I mean, it's been 10 years, and so a girl missing for 10 years is not usually found. And she's aware of that. And, she tries to kind of set the brother up um, for that outcome. He's 18 years old. He just wants to kind of move on with his life before he goes to college, but he can't. He can't because he needs some closure with regards to what happened to his sister. Um, and around the same time, there were other girls who had disappeared. He is looking for his sister Molly, but there was also a girl named Jessica who disappeared, and a girl named Olivia, maybe, who disappeared. Um, and one of the girls was returned. And it ends up that I think she's on the spectrum. She's nonverbal. And she was the one who was returned. And so that has its own um, like suggestions when it comes to the investigation. Um, and the other girl, Jessica, she was never found either. And in their places, when these girls were taken, were left these apple head dolls. And they're like shriveled up apples with like eyes carved in them, and they're put in like these poppet bodies, poppet dresses. It's um, according to the book, it's an Appalachian tradition. It used to be the way that mothers and grandmothers would make dolls for their little girls. Um, and nobody's really understood why these applehead dolls were left, but um, there is a woman in town who has um, a history of like reading cards, kind of telling fortunes. People call her a witch. She's got apple trees on her land, and so people initially look at her, and it's kind of stuck since then. Um, but there's a lot more going on. There's a story about a witch who she had this apple orchard, and a mother comes to her with her two daughters. It's the worst winter they've ever seen. They're starving, and the mother trades her daughters for apples. And every person that Annie talks to in this town and asks them to tell her the story, she finds that they're telling her different versions. Um, and she's curious about like why she's getting different versions. And so um, she starts looking at the woman on the mountain, but she's also looking into other people. There's a pastor in town who has a history that his parishioners don't know about, and all of the girls seem to have been either taken from the church or they went to the church. And so she's kind of looking into the pastor and his wife. And then there's also a piano teacher who seemed to have been around the, at the time where the kids were taken. And then of course you have the witch on the mountain. So she's kind of going through like all these people in the town. The sheriff doesn't necessarily like her because the sheriff is the uncle of the nonverbal child who was taken. And she went and she tried to talk to her, but the mom wouldn't let her. She did talk to the mom, and the mom told her brother, who in turn told Annie, "Hey, you need to leave them alone." And he let her know in no uncertain terms that he wasn't happy with her poking around. But the deputy, he wants to help her out. AJ, he wants to help her out, and so he is trying to find the witness statements from 10 years prior, and see if he could find anything that would help her get a leg up on this investigation. Um, it's a really interesting story. It doesn't have the romance that you would expect from these Appalachian magic books that I've been reading. Um, I'm not saying that that's been the main theme of them, but there has been that element in the past books. With this one, Annie's more like she she's more standoffish. She's more of a lone wolf, and her, I guess, I wouldn't call it a love interest, but the person that she's drawn towards in town immediately understands that about her. And so, like, their relationship is not a relationship per se. It's just basically almost like a comfort thing while she's in town. And so that was an interesting and refreshing take on that aspect of these types of books, which I really appreciated it. It was like a breath of fresh air. So it wasn't this like, oh, enemies to friends or something along those lines that you usually get from these books. It was a really interesting take on it. I really enjoyed the book. It was creepy in a way I wasn't expecting. And so like I said, I was expecting this magical realism kind of almost kind of romantic thing that has been in the um, magical Appalachian books that I've been reading over the last couple of years. But this is definitely different. This is it. This stands on its own. Not that the other books are bad. I like I said, I seem to be drawn towards. So obviously, I like the Appalachian magic books. But this one was definitely interesting. So again, it comes out on August 12th. Give it a read. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching, and like and subscribe below.